Thank you. Welcome, members, to the October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Town Meeting Ash Landfill Closure Committee. This evening we have members Jeannie Meredith, Deborah Panetta, Selectman Chair Deborah Panetta to my left, Carla Scazzarella, Town Meeting Member Precinct 10 and High School Principal, and myself, Peter Manoogian. Thank you very much for attending. Our agenda is reasonably short, but we have an exercise to perform. First of all, the roll call is such. I declare that the four members here, Mr. Serino could not make it this evening. Approval of minutes from the last meeting. You all have a copy in email, and I left a copy at each table. Are there any corrections or revisions? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Member Panetta moves to approve the minutes as presented. Chair seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it 4-0. I want to thank Carla for excellent job on the minutes. Thank you, Carla. Selectman Panetta, can you please describe how you went about inviting Win Waste to this meeting and what, if any, response you received?
As everyone knows on the board and the people that are sitting in the audience, we have been inviting Win Waste to our meetings, and we have, unfortunately, they have not accepted coming. I did reach out to Jack Walsh. I texted him. I also made sure that our chairman was on that text as well, asking if either him or a representative could come, as I have in the past, and I did not receive any response.
Okay. So I just wanted to be clear that at each and every meeting, plenty of notice has been provided to them, not only, of course, our public notices, but we've invited them to attend every meeting, and they've given an answer up until this meeting. They're not even replying now, I take it. So, okay, so we'll move on with that. You have in your packet the completed letter as voted that was sent to, about a month ago, to Mark Fairbrother, the New England Region Solid Waste Chief, based on what we discussed at our last meeting. And that's been sent, and we haven't heard back from him at this point. We really didn't ask for a response. We just wanted them to be aware of what was happening here in Saugus, and should he reply, I will share that with the committee. Any questions or thoughts on that? Well, we're moving on. So, going ahead to number 5 in the agenda, letter to Win CEO. I've discussed this with Ms. Scazzarella about a process that we can use to jointly draft a letter to the Win Waste CEO. We're under the assumption that his name is Dan Mayo. We're under the assumption that as Chief Executive Officer, he's aware of what's taking place here. But as I read his role, he's overseeing a lot of different locations, and he may not be aware of what's happening with this committee and the feelings of this committee. So I thought it would be appropriate that we communicate to him, and rather than talk to their political operative, Mr. Jack Walsh, and their public relations coordinator, Ms. Urban, why don't we go right to the CEO and let him know? But the question before us is, what should we say to him? How should we say it? What information should we include? What response are we seeking? And how do we want to engage him? Are we willing to have him come here, or are we willing to go there, Portsmouth, New Hampshire? So I thought it would be appropriate, rather than one of us to draft such a letter, that we do it in a collaborative fashion. And as I said, I've discussed this with Carla, and Carla, are you ready to? I have some sheets here that I can be a recorder. if you want to facilitate the process.
All right, I'll let you record, I'll facilitate.
Yep.
And type at the same time.
No, you don't have to type it, which, we'll just talk about.
Okay.
This will be in the minutes as a collaborative exercise to draft the letter.
Well, we thought it would be a good idea to decide, first of all, the tone of the letter that we're sending. So are we offering to be collaborative? Are we being a little bit demanding? You know, how do we want to open the letter? And then we wanted to think about what exactly are we asking for? A meeting, you know, some kind of communication. We've heard nothing. So that would be 1 and 2, and then to Peter's other point of where are we asking to meet? You know, are we inviting the people to come here? Are we willing to do something virtual? Or are we willing to go up to wherever the headquarters is in Portsmouth?
And,
So any ideas?
and perhaps, what facts do we want him to be aware of in this process? You know, we often assume that this is such at a granular level of one of their communities that does he know what took place at town meeting? Does he know the meetings that we've had? Does he know that we've tried to engage them? I don't know that he knows. So what fact pattern should we include within this correspondence? Is there anything else that you feel should be included in the letter? And we're just talking broad topics now. Thus far, we have the tone, what are we asking for, where are we willing to do this, what fact pattern do we want to present, anything else?
I don't know if you want to put this at the beginning or perhaps at the end of the letter, but how we've made outreach to local representatives of Wind Waste and what we've received in return. I mean, I just took a look at what I sent them. I sent them the full agenda. I sent a very nice text message explaining why we want them to be here. I think that's important to say that the reason why we're reaching out to you is because we've had no luck at the local level.
So would that go under the umbrella of fact pattern? Do you want that to be, or do you want it to be a separate category?
Well, I think that the fact pattern, it's up to the committee what they want, but I think a one-page summary of just different things that we feel are important, a little bit of history and why we set up this meeting and, you know, how town meeting voted. I think that a little bit of the history and the pattern, because you're right, Mr. Chairman, that it does look like Mr. Mayo is responsible for quite a bit, and I'm not sure whether he knows the full history of Saugus.
All right, so why don't everyone take a moment to write down what they think the tone of the letter should be. We'll start there. So just take a few minutes and...
I don't think the tone should be demanding and
No.
any, you know, the good old, the adage of you get more bees with honey, no pun intended, because they... But I just think that we should be trying to make him aware and let him know that we want to work collaboratively with them and that we're just trying to bring them to the table. You can't work collaboratively if there's only one side shows up. And as far as where do we want to meet, in the letter, maybe you give him the option and let him know that we would be willing to go there, but if they're more comfortable coming here. I think Zoom is also fine, but I just feel like in person is more effective. I think a lot gets lost in the translation on a Zoom call.
So either or here or there, but regardless, in person.
I think in person is better. And I wouldn't be, you know, I don't mind going there.
I'll lunch.
Definitely going now. Ice cream after lunch?
I heard that if you went to Shrewsbury, they would buy you lunch, right? No? Whatever.
Nobody offered.
Nobody, I know, nor would they. Okay, so far tone, a collaborative tone. Carly, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I like the idea of more collaborative than anything else. I think, to Deb's point about, we've exhausted our opportunities at the local level, so that's why we're reaching out. We're not getting any, and I think it's important to say, we're not getting any response at all at the local level.
So that would, okay, that would come under the fact pattern. I think that should be a separate thing. Okay, so collaborative tone, nothing like Eddie Haskell. How are you, Mrs. Cleaver? Where's the school? Nothing like that. Collaborative tone.
That's not really your style.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this aside, and I think we should get into what fact pattern we want to include here, because you've already mentioned a couple of things. So you said, our efforts thus far. Efforts made. And you want to add some context to that, or some content? That Chairman of the Board of Selectmen Panetta has reached out prior to every meeting to invite WIN representatives?
I don't know whether you want to put this in the facts pattern or not, but the town manager and I met with 3 of the representatives of Wind Waste, and I told them about the article that was coming before town meeting, before it was voted on, and at that time, I asked them that it would be the right thing to do to have a representative be part of that committee if it was to be voted on by town meeting. So they had a heads up that this was coming before town meeting, because I wanted to make sure that they did come to the table and how important it was.
Okay, that's important. They were made aware prior to town meeting, so even before this was voted,
Right.
they were given notice that it was coming up at town meeting.
Correct.
Do you think it's important to include what the town meeting action was?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So how would you express that?
Well, I mean, that comes, efforts made. Town meeting, when it came before town meeting, I would say what the vote was.
Unanimous? Yeah.
And maybe some of the key points that were made during town meeting of why it was a unanimous vote.
And
There were representatives from Wind Waste present at town meeting that didn't speak.
That's correct.
They didn't.
Yes, so
That's a
they
good point.
they had an opportunity to speak at that time. And Peter, you made it clear when you spoke that you wanted a representative from Wind Waste there. You wanted it to be collaborative. In fact, I think that's the word you used.
yeah. We stated we wanted collaboration. And I think that made it attractive for people to vote for it.
Absolutely.
Stated we wanted them present. Okay, and this is our 4th meeting?
I believe
This
so.
committee?
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
Remember when Mark Vogel was having the coffees?
Mm-hmm.
Was this brought up at, I can't remember, when we had the precinct 10 meeting?
Yes.
I think we talked
Yeah.
about this at that time as well.
Yeah, I believe we did, yes.
So there was a lot of discussion on forming this committee before it even came before town meeting.
Okay, so the facts, these are actually facts leading up to formation of the committee. What about facts surrounding the use of the landfill itself? Is that important? I mean,
I think it's important. I think it's important that it's in an ACEC. I think it's important that it's the oldest incinerator in the nation. I think some of the elevator talk that we use in our daily speak is important.
do you think it's important to present a sobering statement, like, there's clearly no, I mean, we've gone to DEP, there's nothing on the table, there's no pending policy or legislative changes that would allow for this. Should we just say, there's no pathway, there's no evidence that there's any chance of this happening, that you're already shipping ash out?
50%?
Yeah.
50%, and it does have an end date, so.
Yeah. So that's a fact, that the state has stated that there's no pathway. for expansion.
Because we did have the DEP, they came to Town Hall.
So there's no path to expansion, they're already shipping ash out.
Do you think it's important to say that the landfill was supposed to be closed in 1996?
No pending legislation or regulation changes. That, to close it in 19, you mean the history?
Yeah, a little bit of the
It's operating
history.
based on a consent order?
This almost here doesn't even look to me like a fact sheet. I think that this should be part of the meat of the letter.
Oh, I agree. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
saying that, yeah, we should, these are the things that we should include, but
I'm just thinking if we want him to read this letter and to try to make it sound more of an invitation, other than more like we're kind of barking at him or in a passive aggressive way of kind of threatening him, saying you have no other choice, but you know what I mean? Do we want to take a different approach where we're trying to be more inviting to get him to the table, and then when we get him
buy
to
him
the dinner,
dinner.
then we could talk about all those
that's
things?
an excellent point, because
I mean, I think if we throw too much and the letter's too long, they're just gonna go blah, 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 and rip it up and not listen to
so
any
to
of it.
make it positive, would we want to cite the town's experience with aggregates, saying that this is not a novel approach that we're using, that we can mention the aggregate,
The precedent has already been set.
yeah, and that the town is, I think it's reasonable to assume, as we did with aggregate, the town is prepared to provide resources for this process, like technical help, that we could ask for technical help.
They've already been doing that. We've had some
That's
meetings
a
on that.
positive approach. What about seek first to understand then be understood? Who is this guy? What's in his bio that might attract, that language might appeal to? Let's take a look. Daniel Dan Mayo serves as Chief Executive Officer, CEO for Wind Waste Innovations, and has been part of the Wind Waste team since 2018. They're not publicly traded. They've talked about it, but it's a private company. During that time, he has helped shape company strategy that led execution to build a leading vertically integrated waste company with a deep operational footprint in the Northeast. Prior to Dan's role as CEO, he served as Chief Financial Officer and Chief Strategy Officer. He has been involved in every function of the company over the last 5 years, including mergers and acquisitions, post-collection sales, energy trading, pricing, IT, the PMO team, and procurement. Dan was an architect and executive of the company strategy, which includes development of new services and operational efficiencies. Previously, Dan led international power company Intergen's global finance organization after working as an investment banker at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs. Dan earned a bachelor's degree in finance and business law from Penn State. So what pops out to me is energy trading, new services, and involved with a power company. And one of the things we've talked about is solar power. Carly, you have any thoughts along how we can make this match, or should we reference anything about his background as we go forward with the letter? I'm not saying we should, I'm just asking if it's a good idea.
I honestly don't know, because I don't know how we would weave that in the letter. I do agree with Jean about, I wonder if we should really make this more of an invitation and almost put the fact sheet just as an enclosure to give a little bit of what we've tried to, how we've tried to work with them, and but just kind of, like you say, facts stated. He seems like he's really busy in this company, so I'm kind of thinking he's not aware of a lot of the day-to-day issues that might come up in each of the places where Wynn has an incinerator or a landfill. And he hasn't been with, I mean, he's only been with the company 6 years. So it's not like he's been there since they came in.
You know, you just reminded me of something. What did his generals tell Lyndon Johnson about Vietnam? You're a history person. What was he led to believe?
Oh, that we were doing great.
Yeah.
Everything was hunky-dory over there, no problems.
Is it possible that a pitch is being made to him that, yeah, Saugus is ready to sign on the dotted line, we're going to make it happen? Is it possible that if he's not that involved, because he is so busy, I mean, perhaps the purpose of this letter is just to make him aware of what he may not be aware of, and that when we report to town meeting, we can tell them, because we are going to have to give a report, that we've done everything we can, including communicate directly to the CEO. So it is possible, that he doesn't know about these efforts, or that he's been told otherwise, that he's been made to believe otherwise. I mean, we've seen some unusual changes of personnel at the company after recent events. I won't go into detail, but, there's some...
You're being politically correct?
There's been some turnover down. There's been some turnover there, and now, whatever the reason is, what was promised, what was said, who knows? So maybe if we could just cut through all of that and just send this letter saying that, the town has had a successful experience. As Mike Sereno pointed out, there's really great opportunity financially for them as well to convert that landfill to something that's productive for both themselves and the town. But we also know that with vertical expansion, that opportunity, if it exists, will quickly disappear. I'd like to, of course, continue this, but I'd like to get some input from the audience if anyone has any thoughts about what we're talking about. I see a member of the Board of Health here, Joe Durant, and town meeting members Stacy Herman Durant is here as well. And we have some out-of-town residents, and Karen Rackinac, town meeting member here, and resident Mary Robley, and neighbor Mike Leona. What do you folks feel of what we're talking about here, and what we might communicate in a letter? Any thoughts? Is there anything we're leaving out? Maddie, would you take the microphone, please? It's Maddie Franklin, Franklin.
The only thing comes to mind, and it's because of my background, is the fact that he's strong in finance.
Speak up, please.
He's strong in finance. And if we have put out all these ideas of how we can structure the landfill once it's gone.
So you want to see the letter have appropriate emphasis on financial benefit?
Well, I think it might click with him, because his background is finance. He's a CEO, he was a CFO. He has a lot of finance background. Maybe that would click with him if something...
I agree. I was going to say that too, because that's what stuck out here to me, is that his background is in finance before he did this. So I would think that might
So,
And I think back to the aggregate, I was on that committee, and they weren't aware of the financial benefits from closing and developing that. And they were made aware by the town's consultant, Paul Rupp. And that's when they had an aha moment and decided to go forward. Is there the possibility of an aha moment here for them, or is the financial incentive of a 100-foot ash pile so much greater to them than what could be yielded from development that Mike Serino spoke of, or even a solar farm? We don't know that.
No.
I think we have a right to find that out, and all we've heard from them is you don't have a right to tell us what to do with our land.
right.
But as I think we had this conversation, they don't have the right to swing their fist in our face either down there and disturb, make life more challenging for for both people and the
For the
environment.
residents,
So,
yeah.
it's got to be a dance, as Jeannie says, to try to make them come to the table. But thank you very much. That's a great point. We will include that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Anybody else? Loretta? Loretta, Lacentra?
I had a point to make about,
Revere.
just from an environmental standpoint,
Yeah.
because they're always stating how environmentally concerned and sound they are, and this is a prime opportunity for them to prove that, not only to Saugus, but their other customers, that they actually do have concerns about the environment, to the point where, well, perhaps it doesn't make a lot of sense to expand this landfill or make attempts to expand this landfill, and show us their good faith, potentially, maybe from that angle.
So opportunity to demonstrate environmental consciousness or awareness or stewardship or something to that effect.
They're always telling us they're environmentally aware, so now's the time to show us that is in fact the case.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so we have enough here to chew on. How do you feel about actually trying to draft this here, or do you want to have another meeting and then come back with a draft that includes all that we've discussed and we can refine it at a meeting? Initially, I thought that we'd get it done here tonight, but based on what I'm hearing, we could be here till midnight trying to wordsmith this. What are your thoughts on that? You want me to come up with a draft based that is inclusive of what's been said here and call another meeting, let's say, in 2 to 3 weeks?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea. I think that we're all pretty much saying the same thing. We want a collaborative letter. We don't want something that he's going to read the first 2 sentences and throw it away. It needs to be an invitation. I do think that a one-page fact sheet is pretty important to include some of the things that not only this committee discussed, but that what the residents discussed as well. I think Maddie's point about a lost opportunity cost, we know that we can put solar there. We've talked about that at town meeting, and as part of the committee, in the fact sheet, we could put the ACEC, we could put, there's so much that we could stick in the fact sheet, but if we just want to stick to the, what has happened over the history in terms of town meeting, because, goodness, many articles have come up over the years.
I'm bringing up my calendar now, and just to see, today's the 20th.
And I think that what Loretta brought up too about environmental consciousness is pretty important as well. You're a good neighbor. Talking about being a good neighbor, and a good neighbor is just not giving a couple of baskets to the senior center. It's the cancer rates, some of the cancer rates that we have in Saugus and our surrounding communities are quite high, and we are concerned. And we're not, I don't want in the letter to blame them, but the thing is, I don't want to bring additional risk to our community and our neighboring communities.
I'm looking at the calendar, and Monday, the November 18th comes to mind, but I'm wondering, Madam Chairman, have you heard anything about a town meeting being scheduled?
I have not.
Yeah. I would like to have the letter go out before any potential town meeting. Why don't we, how's everyone feel about the 18th, Monday the 18th at 6:15?
That's fine by me.
I can't make it.
But if I'm the only one, that's.
No, I'd rather have full participation.
Next week
How
is the week
about
of
Monday, the
Thanksgiving.
25th?
That's the week of
Can you make that?
Thanksgiving.
I think so, yeah.
That's the week of Thanksgiving. I'm just saying, a lot of people travel, family coming in and stuff, I don't know.
Well, what is the 11th? Is
Veterans Day.
Yeah, man, we can't do that. The 25th?
What about the 4th? Is that not enough time, 2 weeks?
No, that's enough time. Can you do the 4th? Mm-hmm. Can you do the 4th, Ms. Panetta?
Yes.
I'm gonna guess you're gonna go home and write this tonight.
No, well, I'm not gonna do
At
it all.
4 in the morning,
What I was thinking is that Jeannie and Deb can come up with the fact sheet. Can you folks collaborate on the fact sheet that we discussed?
We could put some information together. Yes?
Yeah, just the one-page fact sheet that is a fact and not a claim. You know, it's a fact.
Mr. Chair, through you. Ms. Panetta, what is AC, what do you keep saying those acronyms? AC?
Area of critical environmental concern.
Okay.
And I keep mentioning it because it was designated that after they were already there in the late 80s.
And so the
And
acronym
if
is
they,
AC?
and if they weren't an ACEC, they could be doing a lot more than what they're doing. That is really what's prohibiting them from going up higher. And our concern, when Peter and I went to the DEP and we spent all morning there, we thought perhaps there was lobbyists trying to remove that designation from that whole Rumney Marsh area, and we couldn't find any evidence of that. So that was one of our main concerns, is to see, okay, is there something going on in the background that we are unfamiliar with?
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Stacy?
Carl, I just want to say that Carl will work, and I will work on the main letter, and then the fact sheet could be attached. I mean, we'll vote on it on the 4th. Stacy Durant, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1, thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
I know you would like this to be a collaborative kind of letter, and I think perhaps being prepared that we get no answer. I mean, we have to think too, what would serve them in answering us, really? They're going about their business, right? So while you're perhaps drafting this, it's like maybe put together a second draft that's a little bit more maybe aggressive, and maybe the first draft, the collaborative, is giving them a time frame to respond by. I think otherwise
That would come in the report that would go to town meeting. If we don't hear back, if this gentleman decides to, put us in the dustbin of the letter in the, or to recycle it or burn it down there, that'll be reported at town meeting, and this will be a written report to town meeting.
but that's pretty far away, right? In May, or will there be another
I
meeting?
suspect we may be having a town meeting before the first of
Okay.
the year.
Yeah.
But we can also discuss that on the 4th. And who would you send that letter to?
Well, I think that, just to give this CEO an opportunity to respond by a certain date, and then if he doesn't respond, maybe
Oh, okay. I see
say,
your point.
yeah, give him the opportunity to respond. We'd like you to respond by X date, or we have a report going to town meeting members,
Yeah.
and that way he has a date that he has to, or
Yeah, we
supposedly
didn't ask for a
respond to.
response from the state, but you're saying we should ask for a response by a certain time.
I
Yeah,
would.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
it's
that's a good
like
idea.
goes on a pile, right? There's no call to action, so
By
to
a date
speak.
certain.
But
And we
I
should discuss that at the 4th meeting, what date that should be. That's a great idea.
yeah, and I know you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think he's well aware. I mean, this is making. If he's a numbers guy, it's making him money, right? It's. I think he's well aware of maybe some of the issues here. Just if he's kind of in charge of the company, he probably knows that there's some town and gown kind of issues.
I don't disagree with you, but when I hear that changes were made in the people that were in the Saugus plant after certain things didn't happen, that didn't go a certain way, I have to wonder. and again, I go back to all these examples in history where people are telling their boss what they want to hear. And it's a common phenomenon, you know. I don't know. You could be right. You could be right. I
fired right away, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I when I first looked at the organizational structure, I said, I wonder if this company's publicly traded. It's not. He had an interview in Waste Dive, and he talked, he said that was sometime in the future. They didn't sound like anything imminent that they were going to be, because if they were publicly traded, then you could communicate to the board of directors, you know, and, but there's no board of directors, it's him. So, why don't we do that? So, let's take a vote on this. So, a motion would be that we will place on the next agenda a separate fact sheet to be prepared by members Meredith and Panetta, and a draft cover letter for vote by Ms. Scazzarella and myself. And we'll take a vote on that. Can I have that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
Chair seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes 4-0, and the next meeting will be on November 4th at 6:15 at this location. Anything that's okay with everyone, right here? Okay, so I don't think we need a vote on that. Okay, great. Like I said, I thought we'd have it done, but based on all this input, great input from the audience, it's, we can have a good product here. Again, we've got to stand in front of town meeting and tell them what we did and how we tried, and they've got to feel confident that their vote was respected by this committee and that we made every effort. And I think, Jeannie, you're so right that, you know, no one in town meeting is going to want to hear that we pull out a flamethrower, you know. So, okay.
Yeah.
Members' comments. Kyle, would you like to go first? Do you have anything you'd like to add to the
No,
discussion?
I just want to get the motion. What
Sure.
was the exact wording?
The motion was that Jeannie Meredith and Deborah Panetta will collaboratively develop a fact sheet that would be included with the letter that we will send to Dan Mayo, based on what we talked about this evening. And that you and I would develop the cover letter to him that would also reflect what was discussed this evening.
And those are to be ready for November.
Then be ready for November 4th. So, be voted on November 4th. Anything else?
No.
Jeannie? No?
No.
Deb?
I was wondering, would it make any sense to, I mean, we're just sending this from us, this committee. Would it make any sense to get any, and maybe we do this on the follow-up letter per Stacy's suggestion of, you know, perhaps they're just going to throw it away and ignore us. But there are other organizations that are out there that are supporting our efforts. I mean, there's Alliance for Health and the Environment, Clean Water Action, Slingshot, Conservation Law, SAVE, Structure of Watershed. There's quite a few organizations that they want to see the same things that we do. Would that come later on if we needed, like, people to sign on?
Possibly, but I just want to be clear that the town's interests may not be consistent with their interests. You know, we have our individual feelings, but the feeling of the town, and I think Mike Serino captured it precisely, that the town would like to see economic benefit that is not detrimental to public health and the environment. And that there's a window of opportunity to do that that would close if that goes to 100 feet. It seems,
I absolutely agree with you. At 50 feet, we have some opportunity. At 100 feet, I don't know what to do.
but I respect those organizations and, but, I'm not sure that their interest is, Saugus's tax base, So my feeling is we have to, our primary audience is town meeting. That's who created us. That's who we're our, I don't want to say authority, but that's where our mission comes from. The town meeting voted this, and
Now, after they close,
yeah,
there's 30 years remediation, correct? And there has been no plan, no discussion of closure, no discussion on what this remediation really means. I find that really disturbing.
I think the town has to demand that. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, it never will. Frederick Douglass, right? So we have to demand that we want a plan that's going to benefit the town, and we would like it to benefit you too, and we believe it could benefit you, like we said, to aggregate, something that's going to work for everybody. And that's the tone we all have our individual approaches to this, but we have a higher burden here of representing the will of town meeting, which was very clear in May, that this is important to the town. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Newman, didn't they have a post-closure committee formed already? What was that other committee that was formed?
It started out as a, it was never an ash, it morphed into an ash landfill committee halfway through the it was always
There was no
an ash-
vote of the name change.
Yeah.
It was originally just like a Wind Waste or Wheelabrator at the time meeting, and then suddenly it turned into a landfill committee. The name changed,
Changed to
and
landfill.
it seemed like what the original intent was morphed into going up 100 feet. So something changed.
And-
What was the original name of that committee?
It was a Board of Health, it was a subcommittee between the Board of Health and the Board of Selectmen, and I don't know if they called it I know there used to be a Rescue Task Force.
I thought it was the Wheelabrator Subcommittee.
Yeah, that's what it was called, the Wheelabrator Subcommittee, to talk about ways to improve relations between the town
Communication.
and Wheelabrator. That's what it was, you're exactly right.
It sounded like a great idea.
But then it morphed in, but it was
Excuse me.
slowly morphed into, a host community agreement for more ash, so. Okay, and public comment. Anyone else in the audience want to talk about and bring any other topic up at this point? Something you think we should talk about? Loretta?
Not that this committee needs any additional reasons to be firm about the closure of the landfill, but so Wheelabrator has, on more than one occasion, said to us that the shipping out of ash is non-environmentally sound, and that was one of the reasons that they're using to say we want expansion instead. It's in the best interest of everyone if you don't have trucks rumbling through towns and cities. So I found out the other day, quite by accident, that so the distance between Saugus and Shrewsbury is 49 miles that they're shipping the ash. It turns out that there is a wind incinerator in Hudson Falls, New York, that in fact also ships their ash to Shrewsbury. And the distance is 186 miles for them to ship the ash from Hudson Falls to Shrewsbury. So why are they concerned about 49 miles from Saugus to Shrewsbury when they're already shipping ash? And this has been going on for several years, from Hudson Falls, New York, upper state New York. So I just thought that that was interesting, that that was one of the reasons that they stated for not wanting to ship ash out of Saugus because of the environmental impacts, and yet they have an incinerator in New York that's shipping ash 186 miles to the same landfill in Shrewsbury that Saugus's ash is going to. So, just an interesting point. I thought it was quite interesting.
Well, I think you raised the point, the whole issue of you don't want this ash traveling through the town. It's bad for the environment. There's been no issue. I mean, our number one truck monitor is here tonight, Ballard Street, Mr. Leona. Have you seen any ash trucks going up Ballard Street?
Not up Ballard Street, but I've seen them coming out of there.
Right.
They've been hauling ash out of there.
Muggsy, can you take the microphone, please?
Have to.
Yeah. You're used to it. You've done it a few times in the past. Mike, well, you know him. Mr. Gliona.
Mr. Gliona.
Yeah.
The reason why they use a different trailer coming out of New York, a vacuum trailer, that's the one thing you gotta ask. Down here, they're using open-top trailers. The open-top trailers that they have are supposed to come back, and you'll see them every now and then. They've got the canvas that comes down. That's supposed to be secured. We know this. If I told you what I've seen come out of the air, you'd be amazed. This is nothing new. And as far as them being the good neighbors, how much more are we gonna be a good neighbor? Why should we be telling them what we're doing when they're not even coming back to tell us, what they're gonna do? You say they got no closing plan, because they're not gonna close it. They're gonna start digging ash out of there and trucking it. It's written all over the paper. All you gotta do is look. They're taking how much out of there now, they tell you? Joe?
50%.
50%.
50%. 50% of what?
300 tons a day, 150 tons, it'd be 150 tons a day.
150 tons, how many trucks?
They said, 13 to 17 in that 2000, in that report?
6 or 7
Two-
in each direction, I think.
Yeah.
150 tons,
Mhm.
and they're using 17 trucks. I haven't seen 17 trucks up and down the Marsh Road that be hauling ash.
I don't know that they're
That-
doing it every day either.
That's what they're telling you. Go down there at nighttime, early morning, and you'll hear the front end loader running down there. Who's gonna go out there and check? I guarantee you, they're loading up trailers to go.
So you're thinking they're taking more ash out?
They're taking more ash out because they're waiting for the whole public to change, political people to change. Once they get their people in, what's gonna happen? We're going up 100 feet automatically.
But that's being monitored closely by the groups that Debbie spoke of. And
Right.
things are being watched very closely at the state level, and anytime bills are
How
filed.
many times, Peter, did we go to the state and ask them, they can't do this, they can't do that? They went, and Ms. Panetta, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we found them coming down Ballard Street with medical waste. They asked my wife where, not when, Wheelabrator, no. Yeah, it was with Wheelabrator. And she told them, but you call your Board of Health, they don't know nothing about it. Who issued that permit? They don't answer to you people. They answer to who? The
DEP.
Board of Health.
Well, in the DEP,
I
we
mean-
saw Debbie and I saw things at the DEP where they were given for different soil coverings and so forth, that, what do they call it? mild contamination, COM1 or something, things that they dig up in Boston where they're doing construction, they bring it and they use it as cover here and so forth. But we do need to move on. You did answer the question, I thank you for that we're not seeing any trucks with ash coming up Ballard Street.
No.
And their plan says they have to go down 107. And the point that Loretta, I believe, was making is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Loretta, is that they said that this was going to be such a big impact in Saugus, and it really hasn't been. And other communities are doing it, and Shrewsbury seems to be welcoming it with open arms anyways, except for a couple of people out there. Okay, I will my comment is this. I want to thank all of you for your diligence, and I know it can be frustrating when you're trying to do something without the party present, but I think as long as we can show town meeting that we've made every effort possible, and we've done it in a respectful way, I think they'll be satisfied. Town meeting will be satisfied with that. And there's talk about the company being sold too. I've heard rumors about that, and someone else might come in and be willing to talk to us. So setting that, I think our work is important regardless. That's what I wanted to say. So unless there's any, we've already set the next meeting, unless there's any other thoughts, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:16 p.m.
So moved.
Ms. Meredith moves to adjourn at 7:16. Chair seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion to adjourn passes 4-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.